the hills and this and it's like a wolf and sheep and all the crazy nonsense like that.
And you can hear a little bit of background property, please. We got the whole world in our hands today, Blaze, don't we? And time is on our side. But
Bray Wyatt was so good, man. Early Bray Wyatt was where was that?
Was it? We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out today. That's the whole point. We're gonna be ranking him on 10 different things here, like we've normally done here. This is the 29th, I think, Superstar scores that we've done. So again, if you are not brand new, you should know how this works by now. But if you are brand new, we will give you a rundown of how that works. Very quickly though, we get a couple things out of the way just for new timers. If they want a little reminder that they can like and follow and share and subscribe and pass things along and do those things you do with every other YouTube channel. At this point, it's baked into public consciousness, so you should know that there's a subscribe button and you should click it if you are into that. You should ring the little notification bell as well.
Children understand the concept of hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. As sad as it is to say.
Yeah, there's like 5-year-olds that know more about smash that like button more than they know about like proper English or something. Right? Yeah, man. So obviously those kind of things, leave a comment below, tell us your scores, your thoughts on our scores, and all the other kind of things go along with that. But on top of that, there's other things you might not necessarily be aware of. There's that little applause button, and that's kind of like a tip jar if you want to kind of show an eck for this episode. Maybe you're a real big fan of it, maybe you want to see more Superstar Score stuff in the future or something along those lines. And there's also the join button. That'll give you access to the members only content, which is the same thing as a Patreon essentially, but if you like Patreon more, go over there. If you like this one more, and the YouTube side of things is how you take care of that. There are the Darkcasts, like Robin Callen just did a New Japan Pro Wrestling fantasy draft, which is really cool. Part of the members only side of things were the Darkcast tier on the Patreon. There's also the Pick a Poison tier, so if you were missing Superstar Scores, because we haven't done one since Kane, which was a couple months ago, I don't remember exactly when we did that. Probably around Hall of Fame, I think, right? Could have been around then. We had the Big Show before that, the Undertaker before that. You know, we still have so many people that we could do Superstar Scores for. Like, I already wrote out the scores for Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Steve Austin, and The Rock, for instance, and we just haven't gotten around to doing them yet. I also have one score for Chris Benoit. I wrote it down apparently. So if you do want to see more of these, it was physique. You know, if you do want more, if you want more of those things, take advantage of the Pick Your Poison tier because that way you can request things like that, or you know, plenty of other things as well. So keeping that in mind, there's also the TeePublic and Redbubble shops. Go ahead and pick up some merchandise if you're interested, and pick it up as soon as you can because they're just taking things down left and right every day for the past couple of days. I've had at least one T-shirt design taken down on one of those two things. Disney in particular, just really harping on it. So take advantage of that while you can. Also head on over to fanboysanonymous.com and check out everything happening there, like the Review to Kill series about the James Bond franchise, some movie reviews. Coming up soon, we're gonna do some stuff on Batman Alone Halloween, on Suicide Squad, etc., etc., etc. So do the same thing for the blue brand that you do here over on Smarkoutmoment. And that's good enough for my plugs, because you don't want to hear that. You want to hear Superstar Scores. And you want to hear what that is if you are brand new. So we have 10 categories here, which are made up of 2 categories apiece. I usually refer to them as umbrella categories, but we've got, for instance, under the first category, we've got ring skills, which is comprised of athleticism and psychology. We've got mic skills, which is charisma and character. Appearance is physique and entrance. Behavior is backstage professionalism and public relations. And we round everything out with the crowd reaction of popularity and credibility. You can score anywhere between a 0 and a 10 in each of these little categories, with the ideal being 100, which nobody has gotten close to. Well, actually, people have gotten a little close. It looks like maybe the highest ranking that we have right now might be on my end. It might be the 92 that I gave Undertaker. It might be the highest.
Somebody in 93, I don't know how you did.
That's right. Yep, you have a 93 for Undertaker. That's the highest right now. We've got a 90 on Rob's side for Chris Jericho. Looks like on Callum's, the highest might be an 89 for a couple different people. You got an 89 for Triple H. Got an 89 for Jericho. Not seeing any 90s on Callum's end, so I think that's highest for Callum. That's kind of benchmarks. Outside of the lowest we've got, I think it's pretty much Buff Bagwell for everybody, if I remember correctly. Is it 46 on my end?
Steve Blackman is my lowest one.
Yeah, you've got Callum's got Blackman at 50 and Bagwell at 51. So 1 point difference between those two. And Bagwell at 47.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you get bonus points and stuff. And also, Blackman is one of my most overrated wrestlers of all time.
He's just funny. I don't know, he's fun.
Yeah, Bagwell's got 46 for me, so that's the lowest for me. You know, every once in a while I revisit this sometimes, obviously, you know, depending on how like public relations goes and stuff, so these things can change. And especially when it comes to somebody like Bray Wyatt, who we could assume is probably not done with his professional wrestling career, but we're going to rank him based off of as if he was done. Like, we're judging based entirely on WWE at this point. We're factoring in Husky Harris and Bray Wyatt, essentially, because it's always the person themselves.
I was factoring in Bray Wyatt.
Well, the Husky Harris thing is baked into his character. That's just a big point, yeah, but it's a reference to I take it as...
I'm not counting when he won for like a couple of weeks by his rabbit. I'm not really counting that too much, Joy.
Oh, I would factor that in too, but I'll spoil one thing. The Husky Harris element barely means anything to me, so it doesn't really matter anyway. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh man, that makes him a 20 in something, you know. But, you know, I think that, like an Isaac Yankum, totally different type of thing. The Husky Big Boy thing, that made me go, okay, Husky Harris is part of the canon. Kind of the same as like, you know, somebody like, say, I guess it doesn't really play that much like Edge, but like, yeah, I don't know, I guess we haven't done anybody that really that applies to as much. Because Undertaker was just Undertaker, and Bryan,
I can think of his Kane, and we mostly talk about Kane.
I guess kind of the closest thing would be Skip Sheffield and Ryback.
Yeah, but again, I would always lean towards that, just the right side of things, because I think when your name changes, that's a bit more of a thing than like just a straight gimmick change.
Plus, again, Skip Sheffield wouldn't have been that much of a difference. It wasn't Skip Sheffield for the longest time. Although if I were to have given him points docked, it would have been what it do because it was awful. So, Bray Wyatt.
Ryback never had buttons.
Lucius. This ring belongs to Maximus.
Ryback never had what?
Never had lights on his
Oh, that's
There you go.
See, that's what would have been the difference maker. If you would have seen Skip Sheffield, he would have been Twitter verified a long time ago, right?
There you go.
Maybe people wouldn't have voted retire on that poll. So with Wyatt, we're going to run down these categories, and we're going to give you scores, and kind of debate if we don't agree on things. Some things I'm pretty sure we'll end up agreeing on. Maybe we'll have slight differences, and we can change our opinions about some of these things. Usually, at least one of my categories I end up giving a little bit of a bump up or, you know, track some points, but that's what we're going to do here. So strap yourselves in, and let's get this thing started. Let's start with the first set of things. We've got the ring skills. Again, that is athleticism and psychology. Athleticism is pretty self-explanatory. Their ability to actually move in the ring, their moveset, their finisher, are they a botcher type? And psychology is their storytelling ability to put on a match that you can get into, whether they sell correctly or if this is something where throughout the entire match they're getting their light work done, and then just because they're fighting back, they just act like nothing happened or anything. Can a long match of theirs be interesting, or is it just boring? Currently, I have him, and again, of course, my opinions can be swayed. 7 for athleticism and a 10 for psychology. Bray Wyatt matches for me have never quite been about the actual match itself. It's been more about the mystique. And I acknowledge that he is a bigger guy who's able to move. Like what's the old phrase? Tank with a Ferrari engine, I think is what they used to call him.
Yep.
But at the same time, I can't tell you a whole lot of moves that he has. And something like the Sister Abigail is not the most athletic move. Obviously, he does not have the sort of moveset of like a high flyer, and he doesn't need to be high on the athleticism. But I looked at some of the other scores that I had, and I had like Big Show at 7, I had Edge at 7, I had Matt Hardy at 7, Paige at 7, Del Rio at 7, Cody Rhodes at 7, and I was just like, I can't really give him higher than that if that's where I went with them. How you guys feeling about athleticism and psychology?
I have an 8 across the board for these categories. I think Bray Wyatt is a good level of athleticism for somebody his size, and I think that the psychology, while I would give it a 10, I think he gets a couple points docked because sometimes they relied a little too heavily on it without ever really paying certain things off. Like when, for example, he stole the powers of Undertaker and Kane, and all we got was a standard tag match at Survivor Series, which he lost, and I really think the psychology elements could have been better played.
I've given him a 6 for athleticism and a 7 for psychology. Because I feel like Bray Wyatt as a character, just a pure wrestler, is someone who we overestimate quite considerably, and people tend to. It's not because like he's not who, just by the way that he works and the way that he moves, you should expect it to be better, because he does have a decent amount of flexibility and athleticism for someone of his size. But I feel like that's a thing that just more and more people have now. It's just like it's no longer like, oh, it's still impressive, but it's not like, oh, he's the only person in the world who's a bigger dude that can do cool stuff. You've got Keith Lee, you've got Bronson Reed and stuff like that can are even bigger and can do just as athletic stuff. So it doesn't really help you stand out. And the psychology side of things, again, when he's on, it's great, but there are times where he leans too much, where his matches lean too much into the bizarre and the like way too over the top in his, whether it's the magical side of things or just being too goofy due to the nature of his gimmick. But fundamentally, I can't give him a high stuff for ring skills because he has so many bad matches.
It's true. I don't remember the last match that I really loved.
I'll go through like a list of like I can list a load of terrible matches that he's had. He's had matches that his debut against Kane, an Inferno match or a Ring of Fire match, whatever they turned out was not a good match. The match with John Cena inside Steel Cage when ended with a kid staring at John Cena, not a good match. The a lot of stuff he did with Braun Strowman in the Swamp and stuff like that, not good. But obviously, Hell in a Cell 2019 is one of the worst matches, one of the worst finishes that you're ever going to see to a match. Goldberg, the match of Randy Orton at WrestleMania 33, and the match of Randy Orton at TLC, and the match of Randy Orton at the most recent WrestleMania. Basically, anything involving Randy Orton is bad when it comes to Bray Wyatt. And yes, I legitimately just, even though in my perception I kind of perceive him to be better at this stuff, I can't have someone who has such a huge collection of terrible one-on-one matches to get a significantly high score for athleticism and psychology.
So Rob was 8 and 8, right?
Yeah.
And what was your scale?
6 and 7.
6 and 7. Over the course of this, I took points away. I have him now at a 6 and a 9, which put them together, pretty nice score. I don't care how old I am, so it's funny.
I know. I was bouncing my head, but I was going to go for 6 for psychology as well. But I'd say, like, on the grand scheme, psychology is better than athleticism. I just feel like I say, like, when he's on, it's great, but he's not on enough. And like when I go back over his WWE history and just say, like, oh, it's super great matches he's had. It's 2 matches he's had, 2 one-on-one matches he's had with Daniel Bryan, that last man standing match with John Cena, the Hell in a Cell match with Roman Reigns, and then basically everything else that he had is great. His tag team matches.
I might come back to this. I might dock another point for psychology more than I'm thinking about it. But we'll see. Let's move over to the second set of things, like skills, charisma, and character. Charisma is the act of actually cutting a promo. Just like, kind of public speaking more than anything else. You could kind of put it like that, but charisma works its way into some other things. I mean, somebody like Ric Flair is pretty much a 10 on charisma, or The Rock is like a 10 on charisma. Whereas somebody else who kind of just can't cut a promo without stuttering, or they just can only repeat the same thing once in a while, they can't just be fresh. They are of the lower end of charisma. Character is their actual gimmick, and kind of some bonus points if they're able to be both a babyface and a heel, although that's not necessarily like a mandatory thing that goes along with this. So these are the high scores that I think I can pretty much give him, outside of one other element. So you're not going to hear anything higher than this for me at the very least. I give him a 9 on charisma and a 10 on character. I think that there are flaws to this that can make me go down lower. Of course, I've been more than critical about some of the way that things are, but I think that some of those problems are more so WWE problems and not him in a lot of ways. So it makes me feel kind of bad to give him some of those things, but you guys might convince me otherwise. Charisma, I mean, when Bray Wyatt's doing promo, I'm listening. That's the thing. And here's the thing, still on Rob's line. And when he was the old-timey Bray Wyatt, cutting the southern drawl and everything, I was captivated by his promos. I thought that they were great. I like that way more than when he's like the Fiend. And I really liked the Mr. Rogers kind of thing too. I think that not only works on the character side of things, but it also works on the charisma because he took a character like that could have just been a little too silly and stupid, and he made it captivating enough where he's got enough of a dark edge to him that I'm not bored thinking he's just doing a copycat Pee Wee's Playhouse, Mr. Rogers sort of thing. So I loved those elements. I thought that the supernatural stuff was really cool when it was done well. I might go down to a 9 on character. I don't know. I might go to an 8 on charisma, especially compared to some of these other things I'm looking at. But more so than anything, I looked at my score for Matt Hardy, and I had Matt Hardy at an 8 for charisma. And I was like, no, I'll take Bray Wyatt promo over Matt Hardy one. And on character, even though I don't think that he is quite on the same level as The Undertaker and Kane, who I have at 10, I felt like that was just sort of the natural way of going about things. Those are the highest ones you're going to hear from me. How are you guys doing?
These are the highest you're going to hear from me, and I give him a 9 across each category. Look, Bray Wyatt has a great character. It might have been mishandled by the WWE, but he has a great character. It's not a 10 because that's The Undertaker. So, with that being said, a 9 is the best you're going to get from this era of WWE, and I think Bray Wyatt delivered, whether it's Swamp Father, or whether it's Fiend, or whether it's even the babyface stuff with Matt Hardy. He always believed his character, and he always did the most with the lore that the character had, and that ain't easy in today's WWE. So I give him a 9, and I give him a 9 for charisma because his delivery is second to none, especially in the early stuff with, when he's in the rocking chair and he's got the family with him. That's captivating character work, and I think he was a lot of fun when he was allowed to be.
apply for disability benefits don't. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm a lawyer at Attica.
Again, I'll stop the trend a little bit then by giving him an 8 for charisma and 8 for character. So charisma, I think that he does clearly have a lot of strong presence.
Hello, Moto.
When you speak, you do listen, you are captivated by the tone in which he speaks, especially in his early stuff with the as the cult leader character. And some of the stuff looks interesting as well. That was good, but I feel like especially towards the back end of the original Wyatt run, his promos would always be very meandering. And I know that might be due to the fact that material they're given, but then again, that's all we've got to really work with. We don't know how much of it is them writing it and how much a role he played in the verbiage involved in that as well. So he would meander a bit too much. So even though you were listening to what he was saying, it wasn't making any sense sometimes, and you couldn't really tell what he was saying. You just kind of go, okay, I'll go along with it anyway. I think that really led to some of the steam coming off of him, where he ended up going away and coming back as the thing afterwards. I'm going to like the character because he is definitely someone who fully commits to characters he goes into, and I'm a huge fan of the original Bray Wyatt comedy gimmick, but that eventually got watered down, got too heavily involved in the like the Undertaker style pyrotechnics and magic and all that other stuff, which was way beyond what the character really should have been. And then the Fiend was great for 3 months, and then it stuck to the rest of its entire run. I think he's almost actually quite generous considering how bad the Fiend ended up being.
I blame Tony for that. I just want to say I blame Tony for that. He's spoken into existence. It's his fault.
I didn't speak into existence. I just acknowledged its existence.
So I think that Bray Wyatt in himself is a person who has a lot of characters in him and can perform them very well. I just think that what we actually end up seeing on screen is like has to dot points for it, because whether that was WWE taking the reins from him and doing that, at the end of the day he let that happen. Or unfortunately he's the recipient of the fact that did happen, and I don't want to feel like it's right to change his score, because it's not Superstar Scores Wyndham Rotunda, Superstar Scores Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt as a character gets affected by the verbiage the character is given and the direction they're given by Craig as well.
So what are you scoring again?
8-9.
8-8 and
9 9
9. I'm totally willing to bump down that 10 to a 9 because I don't like the idea that he's right on the same par with Undertaker and King, because it's not the same to me. But I'm going to be potentially a little bit higher with 9 and 9. I'll keep that going at least for now. All right, so moving on from there, we go over to the appearance grouping. We've got physique and entrance. They are very self-explanatory. You know what a physique is, and you know what an entrance is. I don't think I really need to explain them. But what I should explain, if you don't know, under the physique side of things, is that we are sponsored by Manscaped. And if you head on over to manscaped.com, you can check out all the different tools by telling you that their products are great. But we also have a promo code for you guys to take advantage of. You should know this by now. We've been talking about this for a while. But if you don't know, if you are brand new, you head on over to manscaped.com and use the promo code SMARK. But most of the different products that they've got going on there, because they actually have a wide variety of things for you to pick from. Lots of things that Bray Wyatt probably should.
All our listeners should.
Manscaped person.
I think so. I think that Bray Wyatt understands what he needs to do to keep himself in the game, and all our listeners should understand what they need to do by heading over to manscaped.com and taking advantage of all their products, not just the lawnmower or the weed whacker, but even basic stuff like the shear kit with nail clippers and stuff like that. There's just so much good over at manscaped.com.
Maybe good old Southern boy Bray Wyatt was using the crop cleanser, the crop preserver, and did such a good enough job that he could just level up and start off with JoJo.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to get any, you got to keep those pesky fireflies away from the area. Keep those away, and then certain other people would be more
Just
like,
a minute.
and they might let you if you have some good, have a good look in that area, have a good look package down there.
That's right. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to make more friends. We're all trying to invite everybody into our Firefly Funhouse, and that's what you need to do when you head over to manscaped.com. Am I right?
That's very true. So whether you've got Shed, like the premium travel bag, or you've got Sister Abigail's hut that burned down, then head on over to manscaped.com, use the promo code SMARK, get that 20% off, get the free shipping, and take advantage of this while you can, because the peak hygiene plan or the ultra smooth package or whatever, once you pick it up, you're going to be very happy about that, and your balls are going to thank you as well. So if you do that, you are helping out not only yourself, but you're helping out Smarkoutmoment. And yeah, all right, let's move on over and start talking about those scores. Huh? My lowest score for him out of everything is the physique. I currently have him at a 5. I looked at some of the other rankings that I have. I have Shane McMahon at a 5. I have Mick Foley at a 3. I've got Santino at a 5. And Daniel Bryan at a 5. And I thought, well, I can't really go much higher than that, can I? That's how I was ranking those things. So before we split over to entrance, let's focus on the physique. Am I getting too harsh? Am I not being harsh enough?
I have him at a 7. I think he's good for his size. I think he brings an interesting look to wrestling, so I like his physique.
Yeah, I've got him as an 8 in physique, because he's not supposed to be chiseled or anything. I think it would totally defeat the actual aura of his character to be like chiseled and in good shape. If he was to look like John Cena, he wouldn't be Bray Wyatt. So I can't dock him for being, because he's not out of shape. I don't think he's out of shape. Maybe at certain points he was a bit more chunkier than other times, but I feel like for the most part he's maintained a pretty stable weight, which allows him to be a bigger guy, but also maintain that flexibility and speed in the ring when he needs it to. So yeah, he can do the crab walk.
Well, he was never chunky. He was husky. I'll let that still. No, I mean, I looked at like the husky hair side of things. That's where the only real element came in for me, and I was like, well, under normal circumstances, without having, I guess, I don't want to kind of rule it this way, but I guess if he wouldn't have had the in, I don't know if Vince would have really been thinking twice about bringing him on board. And he did seem to progressively lose weight over time, which at no point do I feel like his physique helped his character or necessarily hurt his character. So it was pretty much, I agree that like if he looked like John, he wouldn't necessarily have this sort of character, but he still could have, just under. The other kind of ring gear that he has. Like, he was never a muscular character. He was never the type of guy. I mean, outside of the little gimmick that he did before with like the, I forgot what was the name of it, where he was like doing the parry stuff. Didn't he even name that? Like the fitness kind of thing.
The Muscle Man dance?
The Muscle Man dance, that's what it was, yeah. Outside of that, but like, he is in shape for his shape, but at the same time, if you're gonna look at like, say, an Ultimate Warrior as like a 10, or even somebody like a Mark Henry, who's a bigger guy, but that's his gimmick is that he's a bigger guy, kind of, or like a Vader, but that's his gimmick is that he's so huge. I don't think he needed to be huge. And when there was a thing right before his release where, I forget who I posted it, somebody posted it on Instagram or something of how great he looked in shape, he was thinner. So I had to dock points for that because he still could have been Bray Wyatt without having a gut, essentially. Do you know what I mean?
I understand your perspective. I think it's completely wrong. Does he need to have a gut? Not necessarily, but he needs to be that size. He needs to be that build for it to really work because that helps. Again, it helps set him apart. It helps him be more unique in that regard. It's the reason why I don't think he could do that character, particularly the Fiend character, because a huge part of his ring work and everything that he would do is based around the fact that he could turn really quickly and have a lot of power and like dynamism in his moves, but still because he's a bigger dude, like hit people with more weight and stuff like that. Like one of my favourite moves that he does is the that immediate clothesline that he does, and he needs to have his arms are huge. Like I think there is more upside to the way that he's built than downside. So is it the same as like an Normal Warrior? No, Normal Warrior is a tender. An Normal Warrior is built like a muscle man. And so that's part of it. But I feel like Bray Wyatt shouldn't be penalised for the fact that he is overweight if it doesn't actually hinder his character. I feel like actually, I don't say elevates it, but I feel like it actually helps set him apart as someone on the roster, particularly at the point of his debut.
In that vein, you asked if you're being too harsh. I think you're being too harsh on McFoley. Why the fuck did you give him a 3? Like, come on now. You can bump that.
I think also we have to point out the fact that it's difficult to judge someone like Bray Wyatt because Bray Wyatt never actually shows too much skin. So the only thing we had a sign of him when he wasn't wearing up is when we do Husky Harris. As being Rob Roy said, we're not taking Husky Harris into account in our scores. So he's someone who's always covered up in the same way that Shane McMahon or Mick Foley is always covered up. Obviously, Mick Foley wasn't so covered up when he was in like ECW or WCW. I would say that Mick Foley is a bit more akin to having a low score for me. Like I can't remember why I ended up putting him up, but like because he's someone who just actually looks out of shape. But the reason why he got over is he just threw his body all around the place. I know he's in good ring shape, but he doesn't look like he's in shape. Whereas Bray Wyatt looks like he's in shape, just has a bit of a gut.
You have Mick Foley at 4, according to my spreadsheet.
I'd say his body shape, from what I saw, is lower than average. Whereas I think Bray Wyatt is in good shape for like a strong built guy who is a bit rotund.
Yeah. But I mean, Raul, you've got Mick Foley at 3.
I have Mick Foley at 3. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, all right, hot kettle.
I guess that's probably the reason why I've gone with slightly higher with that because I seem to have a bit more of a akiness to the bigger dudes. I don't feel like they should just be penalised for a bit of action. Like I can't look at Bray Wyatt and say he's a midpoint or anything like that. Maybe I could be convinced to drop down to a 7 rather than an 8, but I just feel like he's in better shape than like the average wrestler, just because of the fact that he clearly is super strong. He's got huge arms, and again, that just adds a little bit to the character. I feel.
So even though I have him at 5 for physique, I had to go 10 for entrance.
Oh yeah, that's what I'll just jump in and get 10 for that.
I did not give him a 10 for entrance. I gave him an 8.
Fucking hell, Rob.
If there's anything that I would take from Bray Wyatt, that would be the entrance more than anything else.
It's only like the best thing about the entire Bray Wyatt aesthetic is his entrance, from both as the co-leader and as the Fiend.
I don't like the Fiend one as much with the hurt heel. I don't like that as much. If I was just judging that wouldn't be a 10. But I love the Fireflies. I love the song. You know, I like the version of the song that somebody did before, but they just kept changing the words to keep being the flies thing. So it's like catching flies in his flies, you know, that kind of thing. Love the song.
You ain't gotta twist my arm too much. I had no problem bumping up to a 10 for entrance. I was playing a little more on the harsh side overall because I actually went into this thinking I would be the nicest to him. So I was trying to balance it out going into it, but I had no problem putting Bray Wyatt at 10. I do agree that Bray Wyatt's entrances are the most fun part of his character. I think the Firefly stuff is much better than the Fiend stuff. Even though the Fiend entrance was really cool, he had his own severed head as a lantern. I think that's an underrated element of it. And yeah, Bray Wyatt's entrance work, much like I said about his character work, it's as good as you're going to get in modern WWE, and now it's gone. So I don't see anybody coming up to match it anytime soon.
Also, for reference, the only 10s that I have for entrance, for anybody who's curious, I have a 10 for Jericho, I have a 10 for Goldberg, and Undertaker and Kane. And that's kind of where he fits in my mind. Whereas, like, the lowest score that I have for entrance is Buff Bagwell, I think, at 3. Yeah. Yes, I don't remember his entrance theme.
American males.
Well, American males, that would at least be an 8. The hardest group for us to do, always, is the next set, behavior. Because that is backstage professionalism and public relations. And they are essentially, there's a crossover between the two. It's hard to distinguish because we don't really know. But I've never quite, after 29 episodes, I've never been able to figure out an alternative category that would go along with this. So that's why I haven't changed it over these years. But for the most part, backstage professionalism is the locker room stuff that we've heard about, whether or not they are willing to put people over, or if they are doing the politics game a little bit too much. And then, you know, if they are a bully in a locker room, or if they're a locker room leader, so somebody like a JBL, or if a bully. Somebody like The Undertaker is heading up the wrestler's court. Yeah, bully. Bully in a different way. Bully in a good way. Public relations is the outside stuff that we get to see. So that is, you know, the charity work. Like John Cena doing Make-A-Wish things. That's a solid 10. The talk shows, like the media coverage. Somebody like The Miz is great at the public relations side of things. And then you get somebody like Jimmy Uso with like arrests, and that's going to dock them points. And I always go back and forth between this because I never really know too much. And most of the time, you guys bring up at least something on the positive or the negative that I completely forgot about. So I am very malleable in my scores. I went with an 8 on backstage and a 6 on public relations. To be perfectly honest, I don't even remember why I necessarily settled on those. I think they might have been just placeholders. Because as far as I'm aware, people seem to really like Bray Wyatt. And I don't remember any kind of issues that he's had with anybody. I couldn't give him a 10 for backstage because I don't know, him being like above and beyond fantastic. And then on the PR, I kind of tend to level out around a 6, it seems, if I don't know too much about them. Most people have like a 6 score, unless there's like specifically like you know, Mick Foley was a 10 because Mick Foley's been so many different charities and everything. And then somebody like you know, I'll go Buff Bagwell again. He was 2 for public relations. Currently, right now, Alberto Del Rio is a 3. Probably shading more than I thought.
It should be low 9.
Del Rio has 2.0, but
I'd say 1. There's room to go down.
I'm just going to change it at least to a 2.
I think for me he's a 2. Jimmy Snuka's a 1, and Chris Benoit's a 0. I just like numbers.
That makes sense.
I feel like Del Rio, for a living, for the things that he was recently accused of, that's as close to a 0 as you can get.
I kind of feel like murder is like the level you get to where like you get low points in there.
Fair enough.
Once you kill someone, then you definitely go there as well. But like, until that body is dug up, we're not going to be.
It's like the playing the courtroom game of allegedly. Thankfully, we don't have to say that with Bray Wyatt. At least not that I'm aware of. does he get points docked for how many times that he's killed Rambling Rabbit?
You know, I mentioned that video. She did.
And we'll see, yeah.
Right, yeah. It's just kind of like a puppet aside or something.
I leveled him at it.
That was like the entire, what was that entire movie of the Melissa McCarthy? The Muppets. Or the Puppets they had.
I know what you're talking about, but I didn't see it.
No, that was essentially like a Muppet stuff film.
It was anonymous. You want us to watch it? Of it.
It's Muppet film.
Yeah, there you go. I love him at a 7. He seems like a nice guy. He's not going to be terrible. I mean, the most bad anyone can do with him is that he cheated on his wife. And that's neither here. That's shitty. That's like, you know, not the levels of like Dorio and Snooker that we're talking about here. That's just someone's life. I put him at 7.
For both.
Yeah.
I think that's better put him as a knight because he seems to be a guy who is like really well knight. So obviously, after his releasing, I think there was quite a respect on that side. But I kind of also talk when I think backstage questions, I talk about their relationship with management as well. And at least my first some reports came out pretty aggressive attitude towards
Hello, Moto.
not entirely like non-standard or anything like that. Depending on the reputation, like, okay, this guy might be slightly difficult to work with, not from a wrestler standpoint, but from a great writer standpoint, then that might document a little bit. PR got a 6 as well, mainly just due to the fact that, like, if I was like an average, I kind of Bray Wyatt, but if I'm that guy who do some main quick stuff, he's like important, but the next is very his character, his gimmick, he wouldn't do many talk show or wider appearances like that, so it's not someone who would lean on particularly heavy to do that sort of stuff. And then there's also the G25 thing, which is, again, it's just a little detail. Again, it's just like Harry can go through all the upgrades and stuff like that. It seems like far in the distance at this point, but, you know, that's something that can at least paint the personality a little bit worse than otherwise it would be. But I think that's fair. Just a guy who just does his job and doesn't get called on to go above and beyond. That's what they do.
Yeah, see, sometimes with public relations, a lower score isn't necessarily you've been doing bad things, it's kind of an absence of good things. And, like, he wasn't doing media tours, and he wasn't the face of Make-A-Wish, and he wasn't somebody who was going out and when they would do some interviews of, like, hey, WrestleMania's coming to whatever stadium, he wasn't the guy that they were talking to. They were talking to the Charlotte Flairs, and they were talking to the Roman Reigns, and so on and so forth. So, points docked for that, and you can't say, like, this person's a 10 for not doing things. But that's not his fault in some ways either, it's his character. I give a higher score to the Undertaker, because Undertaker still did do some of those things back in the day. But, yeah, I think it balances out a little bit. And then we've got the final 2 here. We've got popularity and credibility under crowd reaction. Popularity being pure popularity, you know, the merchandise sales, and the ratings, if they're champion at the time, we can kind of extrapolate that data. Twitter followers, which I never really check 100% to go like, oh, this person's got 100,000 more than this one, but it's generally speaking, you can kind of tell. And the same thing for like crowd reaction behind that, like, you know, do they get booed properly when they're heel? Do they get cheered when they're baby faces? Do fans chant that they want to see them, or do they chant, we want beach balls, according to Ronda Rousey? And on the credibility side of things, that's with their characters booked for championship wins, whether or not they're a main eventer, like a Hall of Famer kind of career, or if they're a total jobber. So it's the kayfabe side of things. So somebody like a Goldberg, for instance, is a 10 because he beats the hell out of pretty much everybody. And then somebody like a Santino, much lower on the list because he won matches by flukes and such. I might go a little bit higher for popularity. I couldn't have him at a 7, but I don't know, maybe an 8. But then I got Kane at an 8, and Kane is a much worse high-standing character at that point. So maybe I might have to even bump Kane up to a 9. That's the case. Where do you guys stand on popularity?
I have him at 9. I had him originally at an 8, but I thought about it. He's an incredible merchandiser. He was selling shirts and Firefly Funhouse boxes and puppets and V-masks and $600 championships out like nothing, because he was, again, it goes back to what a marketable character. You don't have that a lot in today's scene, so when you do, people really gravitate towards it. I can be swayed one way or the other, depending on what Callum says, but I can't put him any lower than an 8.
I end up being an 8 as well, because I just feel that there are certain people that I have. Again, it's just basing it against argument list. If I've got Shawn Michaels at a 9, and I've got Triple H at a 9, and I've got Daniel Bryan at a 9, and Chris Jericho at a 9, then Bray Wyatt can't be higher than those. Right. But I feel like an 8 was a comfortable one for me, just because at one point I feel like he's obviously a big merchandise mover. I feel at certain points in his run he was one of the most over, if not the most over guy on the roster. I think especially in the early stage of the thing, there was nobody that was more talked about than Bray Wyatt for a short period there. And I think that it's comparable to Kane, because Kane was there for a lot longer, and maybe will be a more enduring character over time. But that for me is more due to just how long he was there, as opposed to how big he was when he was there. And it was definitely big. I mean, Kane's a pretty good score, but I think Bray Wyatt for his time in the company was a really top level player for them. So I think the popularity at 8 is a good fit for him.
Fair enough, I'll bump him up. Credibility, I give him an 8. He is somebody who has beaten some pretty big names, but at the same time, every time that he won some big matches, they made it almost a point to have him lose several more. I don't think I could go anywhere close to like a 6 by any means. And I currently have somebody like a Matt Hardy. Again, the reason I keep bringing up Matt Hardy is because he's only a couple people away, so it's easy to see on my screen. But I have Hardy at like a 7, and he's more credible than that. So I had to give him at least an 8, but I can't go with a 9. My 9s are the people that are just shy of the top, and I never really looked at Bray Wyatt as being like that. Even when he was the Unstoppable Fiend, he still kind of didn't seem like it to me. I might even go an 8.5. Every once in a while I throw a little 0.5 in there.
I mean, I'd be saying like credibility as well, just because you have to have a certain level for a multi-time world champion, which is what Bray Wyatt is. I mean, realistically, it's everything like held is WWE Universal Championship, so if you're doing that, then it's pretty good going, even though he doesn't hold any of them particularly long. And yeah, obviously not tag team champion as well, so he does have that going for him in the title scene. And I think he definitely got some big wins over his time, and he was involved in some high-level feuds as well. But he did lose a lot of important matches as well, where there was like an ongoing trend of like Bray Wyatt losing big matches against. I mean, the most obvious example is the John Cena match at WrestleMania 30, which pretty much like I was killed his first run, but really meant that he was rehabbing his first run early on. The loss against Goldberg was a big deal, and Goldberg against expected, but it's still their perception and all that other stuff. Yeah, he would like lose the two losses to Randy Orton towards the end of the Fiend run. It just felt like every now and again they just had it in for Bray Wyatt in terms of his booking. And yeah, so that's why we're docking a couple of points for it. But I think Bray is at his sort of level.
I also have him at an 8. We're talking about a guy whose WrestleMania appearances see him go up against John Cena twice, Randy Orton twice, The Undertaker, and a face-to-face with The Rock. So either way, like that's huge. And he main evented last year SummerSlam. He main evented several events in Saudi, which are big shows for WWE. I think he's at an 8 because, as you guys have rightly pointed out, he lost a lot, and he's constantly having to rehab his push in his career. And that shouldn't have happened, but it did. So you can't put him like a 9 or 10. But I think an 8 is very comfortable for a guy at his level.
Alrighty, so if we factor this all in, and if I look back on my previous scores that I mentioned that I might flounder a bit on, seeing if I want to change anything right now. Do you guys think you're going to change anything, or are you pretty much locked in?
I'm locked in at this point. Any changing that I was going to do, I've already done.
I think I might update physique one slightly, but I'm not like to go one down. But other than that, I'm not going to change too much. I'm 9 down my final scores now anyway, so.
Looking at mine, and I feel like I want to both dock him a point and add a point, so it's pretty much should balance out the way that it is. I think I might stay with where I'm at, which if I go with my current score according to this spreadsheet, that would end up with a 78 for me.
I have him at an 82.
Up now, I have him at 76.
I expected that I would be the lowest. That's interesting.
I definitely did. Actually, I expected a lot of this conversation to be you just talking about where they went wrong. Like, Calvin picked up the ball on that one more so that was present.
But I think there is a point in time, it's very elite to Raw, his release, stuff like that. And he's a guy I believe who had unbelievable potential and unbelievable like character work when it was working. But I feel like when we look back on it, it'll be someone who is, wow, some of the stuff he did is really good, but how did they mess this guy up or anything else when people look back at it? And I when I was in the immediacy following his release, I saw a tweet which really caught my attention. I think it was is either Voice of Wrestling or something, Voice of Wrestling, like retweeted or liked. It was the phrase, creativity is the most overrated characteristic of professional wrestling. Or the most overrated part of wrestling. It's the idea that realistically, and this is the problem I have with these supernatural characters like Bray Wyatt and even like Kane and Undertaker to an extent as well, like at its crucial level, wrestling should just be about one person wants to fight another person for some kind of prize, and you build it. That's essentially all it is, and it's worked for over 100 years. That's just the crux of it. And people that go so far removed from that in the search of creativity or doing something different, it ends up just diminishing what should be the fundamental part of it. Because if you do the fundamental part right, then that's kind of all you need to have a really good wrestling product. And I feel like we've moved too far away from that. And some of the characters like Bray Wyatt is an example of that being pushed to his extreme certain levels. The Cognitive is perfect for it because you can build feuds around that. When you start adding lightning and fire and like his own little monster character with schizophrenia and stuff like that, then it starts going for the deep end.
So I'll say this, I agree with that. And while I do enjoy a hokey Undertaker feud every now and again over an urn, it's still over an urn, and there's still a lot of roots of pro wrestling. And there's a reason why, even though everybody's tried to do an Undertaker character, there's only one Undertaker. And I think a lot that hurt Bray Wyatt was this insistence on pushing him like he was going to be an Undertaker character. And they kept thinking, oh, well, he'll be fine because he can just do something supernatural, and he's right back in the thick of it. And I think at the end of the day, that hurt him. Look at the end of this character. It was a 5-minute match at WrestleMania 36 or 7 with Randy that I missed, quite frankly, because I was taking a shower and thought, well, it's Randy and Bray, surely the entrances will go 10 minutes. You know, like, let's look at the end of this character, and it is concerning to me that his entire Fiend persona was just transferred to Alexa Bliss, and what do you do now? What do you do with her? You know, how do you get her back to just being Bliss?
So what you do there, I know that's not the way this discussion, but what you do there is you have all of her power get transferred into Lily. Then you have Lily debut an actual superstar. Then she's the new Fiend, and Alexa Bliss gets returned to original way to Bliss.
I mean, let's be honest, we know what's going to happen. They're just going to stop doing it one day.
Oh yeah. She'll just go on TV for a couple of months and come back as Alexa Bliss, and then it'll be on.
They will find a way by Extreme Rules to throw her off of something high and have her hit her head and go, okay, she's okay now.
Maybe some like fairy godmother's going to come along. That's like the opposite of Sister Abigail, and she's going to like cure her with some glitter glitz and she's going to go back to the NXT character. Well, I mean, at some point down the line, we're going to do some kind of Super Scores battle Alexa Bliss, and it'll be interesting to see how she weighs in with the basically Bray Wyatt. I've been calling her in some articles female Fiend or Fiend Dead, just because that's kind of how it is now. She's the Fiend. There's no more Fiend. And if we were going to, it's a weird set of circumstances. If we were going to, of course, rate just Husky Harris, if we were going to just rate the Fiend, if we were just going to rate Firefly Funhouse version, I'm sure different scores for different things, but overall scores, if we combine everything together and we combine our scores together, ends up with a 78.67, which again might not sound too great, but that is a quite high score. Remember, 78.67 out of 100.
I feel like we really, in order to demonstrate that some of these scores we're giving are actually better than people expect, we really need to start doing some really bad wrestlers.
That's true. We probably should do some really terrible ones.
If the lowest ones we've got so far are Steve Blackman and Buff Bagwell, we really could be dead. Like, we haven't done one for Greg Lee, or
that would be fun.
like I think we could do like an episode where we just say, okay, here's 5 or 10 terrible wrestlers, and we just do super just to balance things out. So we get the Great Khali, get Giant Gonzalez, we get James Ellsworth. We just chuck them all. Right, here we go, and now you understand what you get. You get really low scores in this thing.
I don't know who, off the top of my head, who I would end up probably giving the absolute lowest amount of scores for.
Jack Gonzalez sounds about right.
It might be. Because, I mean,
we have no idea about public relations. That's pretty big. So
true.
Like, we have to just try and dig up some things out. But I assume the 80s and the late 80s and 90s actually got some shit, but like that's just part of the course at that point. So I don't think it's someone who would be pretty low down for.
I mean, Rick Ali.
Yeah,
he's not going to get scores. Yeah, that, like, those kind of things would save him a little bit, but like his ring score, of course, is not going to be good.
Okay. Well, that's the point. We would get some people that are more on the overall lower end of the scale, because the lowest ones we've got are in the high 40s, like low 50s. So we basically said, averages. We haven't gone beyond that, which is a really terrible one.
I'm curious. Drop a comment below. Tell us who you think could potentially be fitting for that kind of thing. Because when we get some blank weeks coming up, they don't have to be necessarily tied into exactly what's happening in the current events. Right now, we're doing this Bray Wyatt because it's fresh. But if we get a blank week in September or something, and it's being like, all right, well, what do we do? I don't know. How do we do Superstar Scores? Blah blah blah. Like Superstar Scores the squad team or something like that.
Sid would be an interesting one.
Oh, Sid.
I think he'd end up higher score for me than anybody else. I don't know. Maybe Rob might give me a run for his money. I do still want to see.
Sid's a lot. Sid stabbed and nearly killed Art Anderson.
There's some people that I think it's interesting just because of the way that people bring up certain names. Like obviously we joke around about Mabel a lot. I would be interested to do Superstar Scores Mabel, talk about just like how he actually ranks. We always bring up Kevin Nash for arguments. I think that'd be interesting.
Virgil would be interesting.
Virgil would be very interesting. Teddy Beyonce would be very interesting just to see where it is. I mean, any kind of legend and any kind of person who any person at this point outside of like I can't imagine really going into a super deep dive about like Superstar Scores, super crazy.
Not to be Nails, because Nails is a terrible wrestler, and he also held up Vince McMahon, so it's kind of that'd be low on the backstage.
Nails would be somebody who's lower than that 50. I'll tell you that. So keep in mind that kind of idea. Drop a comment below if you want to tell us any kind of suggestions you have. Tell us what your scores are. Tell us how we ranked Wyatt, whether it's I got way too high on that one or really low on that one. What's going on? Whatever that might be. And make sure that you are following us for the next things that are coming up, which I don't know, Hot Tags at least coming up next after this at some point, and some other things heading down towards that SummerSlam side of things. And then God knows what else. I don't know. I've lost track of things. But if you are subscribed to the channel and you follow the Facebook, Twitter accounts, that's Smarkoutmoment, and you check out everything that's happening on the website, then you'll see when things go up. Especially if you have those email alerts, then you'll actually get the email that will tell you that something gets posted. And you can follow us individually, check out all the other things we have going on. I mentioned Fanboys before, but if you want to go to Tony Mango on Facebook, Twitter, you can check out all the posts that I have funneled in through there. And whenever I just feel like tweeting stuff every once in a while, follow what Rob has going on at Dude Felice.
Yeah, and you can check out everything going on at Fightful.com and Fightful Select. Breaking news constantly, whether it's the CM Punk story that took the world by storm or recent free agent news that just dropped. Check out Fightful Select today for all your breaking wrestling news needs. But you can also check out what Callum's got going on. You can follow him at Wigmeister14, right, Cal?
Yeah, give my own plugs. Come on, dude. Do my plugs. That's the only plug I've got, really.
Well, Tony said mine next. I said yours.
Okay.
Synergy.
That's fine. Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings as well as we have weekly stuff on the Smarkoutmoment website. If you are part of the Patreon, make sure you check out the